And the good news?
But we're here. We're starting.
We can't freaking start without them. So let's see how we can rustle them up.
Well, the city attorney says you don't need a quorum for a workshop, so.
Yeah, but how do you approve a budget?
Huh?
How do you approve a budget?
Well, you're not approving the budget today.
Yeah.
You're just working on the budget.
Right. Yeah.
The approval is on the 28th. It says, yeah, it went.
We should do it before.
Well, we tried but that's been already publicized. What?
We still can.
City clerk is the one in charge of that. We're just.
The one for the 28th, we cannot change out.
Okay. Well, that's a state statute approval date.
See.
And let me ask you a question. I should wait because he's new. I don't want him to.
Sí, no le daña la mente todavía.
No, él no le da mucho.
Ahora tiene dañada.
Come and see him.
Hi, how are you?
Oye, everybody takes the meeting today.
I called everybody on the phone and I sent out an agenda. I sent out a cancellation notice and I sent out
Great.
the good notice.
Mr. Sir, Clerk. Hi.
Mr.
So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Mr. Clerk.
Hey, let me rustle up. Let me see if I can get some people.
I have Commissioner Ruiz is on his way.
Who?
Commissioner Isidro Ruiz. We just called Jason.
I was gonna try to contact him.
Well, I just spoke to Saul. I'm gonna tell him now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Saulito, I have you on speakerphone. Yeah, the meeting's at 5. Can you make it? There's only 2 people. It's only me and Ray. How long will it take you to get here?
Oh no, I'm right. Give me 15 minutes. I'll be there.
Perfect.
Hello?
All right, brother.
All right.
Okay.
Okay,
Sí,
there's
no,
that.
yo sé. Bueno, are you on your
Let me
way?
call.
Are you on? Okay, see you here.
Dímelo.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Perfecto. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good. Let's call David.
He's not gonna be able to attend.
No?
No.
Está en. Okay.
Yeah.
Joniel won't be able to attend either.
He said okay, pero maybe later.
Maybe later. This meeting
The
will
day
be
that
over.
I spoke with him, he said okay, but maybe a little late. He would arrive a little later.
Oye, termina esa vaca en 30 minutos.
Yeah, this is not gonna be a long.
20. Yeah, I was shocked yesterday. Really shocked yesterday.
Well, if you notice, the commission, you
You
know,
guys worked hard yesterday.
yeah, we work
And you worked
efficiently.
together yesterday.
Yeah, we work efficiently. What's up, brother? Oye, curveball. Everybody thinks the meeting's at 8. It actually started at 5. So Nano and I, Nano and I are the only ones here. Are you gonna be able to make it? No, not at 8. All right. We'll be here waiting for Saul. We'll see who else shows up. And whatever, anything, let me know. Hey Ray, do we need quorum for a workshop?
No. We don't.
Okay. Now this was announced at 5. So right now we are. What does the charter say as far as starting? Is there?
No, this is a workshop, man. We
So
can.
we don't have to.
There's no formalities.
All right. Just heads
We
up.
can start. We can start in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20
Just
minutes.
heads up. The mics are hot. So right now.
They're on.
Yeah. Saul's en route.
Commissioner Ruiz is en route too.
You know what his ETA is?
No idea.
No. Okay. I'll wait. Yeah, I thought it was at 8 too. So what's your ETA? We're just waiting.
Why do you think just?
Why did he
tranquilo, so you'll be here in 20 minutes. Ah, perfect. Got it. Nah, tranquilo. Tranquilo. Dale, wait. So he'll be here in 20.
In 20 minutes.
Yeah. Let me get one of those. Is this the revised version?
That's fine.
Is
So
it
we're
revised?
still operating the same one, because we still haven't made the changes.
You haven't made the changes?
Yeah, when we're done, then, I can tell you we have eliminated 949,293, so there's 468,817.
Say that number again. 900 what?
You're 949,293. That's how much you deducted so far
And that is,
from all the workshops that we have done.
right.
And then you got left 468,817, and that's to make that $1.4 million.
Right. But now, now the workshop is over, so we can speak. We're in the sunshine, right? Right, Mr. Attorney? We're good, we can talk?
Yeah, we can start the workshop now.
So, here's an interesting concept. We have not officially voted to take the $1.4 million that was budgeted for building and zoning to go back into the budget and then take $1.4 million in permit fees that's in that bank.
Well, let me correct it. There's still $1.4 million. There's $200,000 left.
In permit fees?
And here is, and I'm gonna give you, the building department's been working, and I hope you guys can hear me, been working in a deficit for quite some time. Okay?
Okay.
And because, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You got it? And because they've been working on a deficit, we've been carrying that deficit for about 6 years? 6 years. So there's ups and downs, but right now, those $200,000 is up as of today. Next year, which is the budget that we're working on, we're gonna have to apply those $200,000 to the $1.4 million that they need. So they're gonna be $1.2 million in the hole again. We expect that with that project that they have there, they're gonna come ahead and be in a positive.
So let me ask you a question. And this is my confusion.
Mm-hmm.
The revenues that we've received in permit fees for the last 3 years totals $9.7 million. Now, I'm looking at revenues from 14 to 19, last 6 years, $9.6 million. So there's a discrepancy on the numbers. Because if you look at
Discrepancy on whose books?
mine,
And you got those books available?
yes.
Okay. You
So-
have them with you?
So,
You can take out.
no, that's just it. I had them, I just moved cars, switched cars. Okay, in 18-19, we received 5.9 million in license permits and ordinances, right? In 19-20, we received 6.2. Just on those 2 years, we're talking about roughly 12.1 million, correct? Right?
I mean, those are your books. I don't know what.
No, these are yours. Just here.
Yeah, but here's the disclosure that I just gave you.
Well-
See, what you're looking into, this is to carry over on our books,
Right.
on deductions and subtractions and gains and losses by the building, department. Because of that, remember, the reason why the building department increased their fees is because they were too low. And they were having that for many, many years. So Annie, at in 2014, and you could have got, I mean, we could have gone back even then, been carrying all those minuses and losses, and the losses basically gave us a plus $221,000 and $221,554.
Okay.
So that's what you have in building permit fees right now,
Okay, what other,
and that's for this year.
what other revenues do we have in the building and zoning department?
See, you mentioned about the $5 million that is on the summary section, that it says license, permits, and ordinance.
On revenues, correct?
Okay, that includes, occupational licenses, that doesn't belong to the building department.
Right,
It has the building department fees. It has, municipal licenses, that's the licenses that the city clerk collect, that doesn't belong to the building department. And also, let me see, include code enforcement also.
Okay, so-
Huh?
I'm sorry, I don't wanna interrupt, go ahead.
So, code compliance,
Mhm.
the revenue from them, and zoning and revenues. The only line item that actually belongs to them is on the revenue side, is line 31, building and building permits.
Line 31 of revenues, right?
Yes, on the revenues.
Okay,
That line item is added on that $5 million.
okay,
But no, those $5 million actually, because on the front it says licenses, permits, and orders.
so,
Only the permit part is that belongs to building.
which, and that's understandable, and thank you for that breakdown. But now, here is another assessment, there's more accurate numbers. 18-19, we have $4.4 million. In 19-20, we have $4.7 million. That's $9 million, right?
Okay?
Right?
Where you got it for?
When you go to line 31, building permits,
Yeah, those
Of revenues.
Projection revenues for.
Oh, those are the projected.
good. So watch this. In 18-19, the projected numbers were $4.4 million. What did we actually collect?
In 18-19,
Yes, ma'am.
actually, $1.3 million.
Why was there a $3.3 million deficit on the projection?
Building department is the one that, actually provides those numbers, and usually they provide those numbers, depending on the projects that are coming, but sometimes the project, like that project that they were expecting 18-19 actually came on 19, and you'll see the revenue that they actually got on 2019 was $4.4 million. So the project that they were expecting in 18 actually transferred to 19.
Okay, so we only received how much in 18-19 in building permits?
$1.3 million.
Okay. 1.3 million. And then in 19-20, we projected 4.7 million. How much did we actually receive?
So far, we only have 1 point something million dollars.
1 point what?
I don't have that. Let's see.
So that still doesn't explain, because you said that it carried over to the next year to 3.3 million. It didn't.
Okay, in the, do you have this part?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there's the actual revenues, you're gonna see that in total, those are the actual revenue that we received those years. So that adds to 9.6. Then we have expenses, administration expenses, total 9.4, so the difference is the 221,000.
Okay. Admin expenses. Okay, expenses is the actual budget for the building and zoning department for that year, correct?
For,
See, one thing you gotta understand, if you were to go in the county The building department has HR, finance, it has their own, they survive within themselves.
They're autonomous.
The city, you can't do that. The city building department, they depend on us to provide those administrative service.
Right,
Because we're providing those administrators, we're charging them for the service that we provide.
right.
To recover that money that we've been paying down back to the residents, so we can use it to fund all the departments. I'm sorry. Yes, yes, I'm sorry, I should have given you one. Give one to Carmen, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I understand that, but it's not adding up in my head, which is why I continue to ask questions. So I appreciate your patience.
It should be in the form that we just gave you, which is basically a summary of all the spreadsheet that we have we've been doing.
Okay.
Apologies, guys. Sorry.
No problem, understandable.
Got confused.
What's up, brother?
Thank you for letting me know.
No, Isiro's en route.
Yeah, he's on route too.
A
Form that we've been talking about.
Okay.
So we started, they said we don't need quorum. So right now, I'm asking questions specifically on the building and zoning department funds from the last meeting. But the finance director just broke the news to me that they only have $221,000, which is this number here,
Okay.
left in available funds for permit fees, not 9.7 million.
Wow.
So,
And the reason for that, just to explain to Commissioner Diaz, is that the building department has been working in the negative for many, many years.
Right.
And the city has been funding, with general funding, that department. So as they make money on building permits, because they had to raise the fees back in 2014, I think, in order to start making money and be able to become on the positive, we've been collecting that money back based on fees. Because I told them, I said, it's not like the county. County building department is self-sufficient. They have HR, finance, everything else within themselves. Our building department doesn't do that. We're more small government. So the city has to provide all this funding. And because we're providing those fundings, as they make money, we collect them back. We collect them back to pay other departments so we can fund the other departments.
Okay. Now, I have a. What about the? Let me look at my paper here, because I was going around the other day at the Parks and Recreation. How much money do we have there? If you don't mind.
You know.
for this year's budget,
Yeah, because we haven't used that much money on that department. I believe so, because there haven't been summer camp. It was not there. The senior center also it's not available.
But senior center is paid with grants. So
With grants, okay, yeah, but isn't the senior center doesn't come from the Parks and Recreation?
No.
No.
Senior center is funded by Alliance, which is our grant. Although they're not coming to the senior center, but we're providing food.
no, that's not what he's talking about. What he's referring to is the rent that we charge the senior center in Ronzelli Park.
Right, isn't that from the park department?
That's a revenue.
Oh, you're talking about the bingo that they play there and that kind of stuff? I don't think they're collecting that.
No, I
That
don't
revenue's
believe that
not
they're
coming.
coming to the city.
No, we're not collecting now, but he's talking about those revenues.
This
Yeah.
revenue goes into, there's an account, the revenue, City Park, let me see.
What number is the park here in this?
Well, the pages aren't numbered.
Yeah, right here in the back. Engine, capital, Park and Recreation is number 12. 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, right here. I mean, we were with no employees there for a while. How much money do we have there, 2019, 2020, right now?
What they have spent so far?
Yeah, and how much money do we have left from that department?
Okay. Their budget for 1920 was 929,000. They had spent so far 391,000.
Mhm.
392.
Read the percentage so they can send it.
And 43%
That's a 43% expenditure.
for this year.
For
That's
this
been
year.
our money. They don't have
So
it.
read those numbers again. Actual budget was?
The actual budget was 929,111. So far on expenses, they have $391,984.
Which they already spent, that money is already spent, correct?
Yes,
The
the
391.
They have available 532,852 for this year.
For this year, how much? 5? I don't see it here, that's why.
The variance
Well,
between
this,
the 900.
yeah, this will be the actual expenses, the budget performance that we run
For this
for you
year.
guys, basically.
But that's general fund, so it's not like,
So how much money do we have, we need to balance? How much
we
money
have
do we need?
this budget for $468,000.
462?
68.
468 and 117. 468,817 is what we need to balance.
Wow.
So, going back to what Commissioner Saldia said, we still have $537,000 left of unspent budgeted funds for Parks and Rec from
Right.
1920.
Which is part of general funding.
I'm aware, and that money's gonna go back to reserves anyway.
Yes.
Right, can we go ahead and get that money to go ahead and try to balance this budget, or we can't?
Well, once we close the books,
You can,
then that money we can go back
Right.
and fund whatever is left here.
right.
Okay,
So
Like, for example, so far, we have collected 19,612.
So
We
you-
had spent 19,784, so actually we are under 172,000.
19, and we collected how much?
We collected 19,612,000. And, we had spent 19,784.
read the percentage so it don't leave it.
Right.
Okay, revenue 79%, receipt, spend 80%.
Right.
So this is as of today. I mean, our books are gonna close November 30th by law. And by November 30th, obviously, we will know how much.
September 30th.
No, November 30th. You got 30 minutes.
Oh, you got 30 days after, right.
And there are like couple of revenues that we will receive, but, like in November, December, they are not.
Let me go back to the Building and Zoning Department revenues, because I'm listening to your explanation, but it's just not, it's not computing in my head, and I'll explain why. And I guess I'll explain the mechanism from beginning to end. We moved the financial instrument to fund the Building and Zoning Department in 1920. And that financial instrument in 1920, let me go to Building and Zoning. So let's all go to Building and Zoning real quick. See if I can find where the hell that is.
yeah, hold on, let you know right now. Building and zoning.
I'm on a paperback, so I don't have it numbered. Okay, so I'm in Building and Zoning now. And so while you guys are looking for that, Building and Zoning total budget for 18-19 was 1,148,205. We first take that 1.1 million to fund the Building and Zoning Department, right? Now, you're saying that the Building and Zoning Department runs on a deficit of that 1.1 for that year?
Not for that year. It's been running in deficit since, remember, this is a carryover deficit from 2014.
Right,
And we started in 2014. It could have been started way before that.
right.
But that's when, I guess, Andy, that's when you got there and picked it up. And then from that point on, as you can see, it was minus $376,000 if you follow this right here. On 2014.
Okay.
Then it went to a $400,000 deficit, $800,000. So as you continue throughout the years, between making money and losing money, obviously that's where we're at right now.
So 19 shows $2.6 million in the black,
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. This is all right.
right?
And that was what helped with the deficit of the previous year of 2.4.
Got it. So every year that we're running a deficit in the building and zoning department, you're basically taking whatever revenues and permit fees to supplement that deficit. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's backwards. Every year that they're running deficit, we pump money into it to budget their performance, and then whatever they end up at. If, like this coming year, you're about $200,000 plus, so they're in the plus right now. Now we're about to go into 2021 with a $1.4 million budget expense. So now you're starting with a $1.2 million deficit in building. Now the city is funding that. So in order for them to come out of that deficit, they will have to collect fees above the 1.2 to become back in the positive.
Right. But
And
here,
hopefully that building there will do that.
right. But here's where I get a little confused. So starting from the beginning, in 1819, we had a $1.1 million budget for building and zoning. Right? In 1819, we received how much in revenues from permits?
$1.3 million.
Okay, so that's the year we're supposed to be 200 and something thousand dollars in the black, right?
No, in 1819, it was still,
$2.4 million in the hole.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, $2.4 in the hole.
I'm aware, but so in 1819, you're still trying to make up shortfalls.
we're positive to, 221,000.
In the 1920.
Right. Now watch this. This is going to make sense, and it's only going to take 5 minutes, and then I'll stop just so you understand. We're going to go through a little thing here. For 2014, how much do we have in revenues?
1.3 million.
Okay, so 2014 we had 1.3 million in revenues. In 2014, what was the total cost of building and zoning?
1.7.
In 2014, we had 1.7. We budgeted 1.7.
That's building and plus the rest of the department, the administration department.
Okay, see that's the part that's confusing. Look, the administration is charging an administrative fee.
No. The 1.3 was for revenues. The 1.7 was the expenses.
That wasn't my question. So my question was, what was the budget? We had 1.3 in revenues. What
That
was the
was the
actual
budget,
proposed
1.3.
budget? Proposed budget for that year for 2014.
Uh-huh.
What was the proposed budget for 2014?
I don't have those figures here with me. I can tell you that the actual revenues,
Or 1.3.
1.3.
Right. And the administrative fees were 1.7, but what I want to know is what the actual budget was, because if we budgeted 1.3, then we're within budget. If we went over 1.7, we went over budget. And in order to go over budget, we have to have a budget revision. So that's what I'm trying to get at. That's why my math doesn't add up. So if we don't have the total numbers.
Oh, so this is the budgeted expense is 1.21. 1.271, which is the next line item, the next line over. If you can see the 1.3, the actual revenues,
Right?
the actual budgeted amount is the next column, the 1.271.
And that says budgeted expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we okay, so watch this. So we had 1.3 in revenues, and we had 1.2 in expenses. which leaves us with roughly $70,000 in the black, right? If we continue doing this, we're gonna be way in the black, not in the red, and I'll prove it to you. Actual revenues for 14 were 1.3, budgeted was 1.2. For 15, revenues was 1.3, budgeted 1.2. So that already has 200,000 in the black. In 16, actual revenues was 532,000. That's not right. And budgeted was 825. I can guarantee you those numbers aren't right. There's no way.
So that's what they received on
hold on.
116.
So when you say you guarantee that those numbers are not right, where is your?
So I'll explain.
You showed
I'll explain
me-
why.
You asked me. You told me that you have your books.
Right.
All I'm telling you is we don't pull this number out of nowhere.
Right.
Those numbers are in our books.
Those numbers are, you're calculating what they're giving you. So
No,
I'm not
I'm
questioning.
calculating the actual expenses with actual revenues.
Right, but I'm not
That's what
questioning.
accounting
I'm
is.
not questioning your calculation. I'm questioning what's given to you, because the finance department can only calculate what's given to them. In 2016, we had impact. Let me see. In 2016,
Impact fees are not here.
I'm aware. In 2016, what did we have as a build? We had nothing as a build in 2016. That's why the number is so low. Okay. All right, I take that back. So now, in 16, we have 532 in revenues, and expenses we have 825. So now we're 100,000 in the red. In 17, we're 593 revenue and 914 in expenses. Now we're 500,000 in the red. In 17, we had 1.3 in revenues and 1 million in budgeted. Now we're 100,000. And then in 14, we budgeted 4.4 and we only had 1.1 in expenses.
That's on 19.
Right, in 19. But you're saying that we didn't receive those $3.3 million that weren't budgeted. Do you don't know why we didn't receive them?
The project. Usually when they budget that, those funds like that, because they have projects on the line, but sometimes because of the permit and the process, it goes into the next year. So the next year we have to budget that
But we
project.
didn't. Because in 20, I don't see those additional $3.3 million.
No, the number for 20 year is not here since we haven't closed the year. So we haven't included here.
So in 20, there's which is 1920 this year, right? There's $3.3 million in revenues that are not on any document. Is that accurate?
Yeah, no, it's not here. We haven't closed the books.
So, okay, what else is there in revenues that we haven't closed the books?
Now this is all the way up to year 18-19.
Right, I'm aware of that, but
For 19-20 so far for this year, what we have received, $1.2 million.
and we're supposed to receive this
We're
year
supposed to receive 4.7 because of the
identity.
the second building that was coming. They finished the 740, and then they were going to build another building, which is coming for next year.
Are you talking about phase two?
Phase 2.
Phase two starts in January.
Yeah. So I know that they
November,
have.
December, January, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I know that their permit going to expire in November sometime,
right,
so they extended 6 months.
right. So they have a start date. I spoke to them last week. They're going to start in January.
That's good.
But is that the 3.3 that you're talking about? Because that's an additional, that's a different revenue.
That was supposed to come this year. That's why you see that the projections that were given to us was 4.7, but in reality they got 1.2. And
Okay.
I believe they actually added in those numbers phase 2 and 3,
Oh, for real?
which 3 is not.
They didn't add. Well, did you guys add 3?
No, it's
No, those numbers are given to us.
Those
Right.
are the numbers that building department basically based on applications and everything that they get, that they project that we're gonna receive, and those are the numbers that he puts in.
Okay.
Now, based on other things that have nothing to do with finance, obviously, they either get stopped, delayed, or pushed back.
What's the actual number that we have in reserves right now?
5.5. Yeah. I would say about 5.5 right
Can you
now.
get us the actual number?
Yes.
Is anybody downstairs that can get it?
I doubt it right now.
Because this is my frustration. I can't speak on behalf of my colleagues, but my frustration is that we constantly we don't have that information, and it's frustrating to be able to do our job without actually having numbers. I understand the cat and mouse game politically. I know that's the part that you guys try not to get involved in, and I respect you for it, which is why, man, I don't attack you guys. I don't. My job is I attack politicians and ideas, not operators and employees. But if we have 5.5 million in reserves now, we just allocated 1.2 million dollars yesterday. You stood here and said you don't want to start using reserves, and never you want to use them, and I understand, but we were talking about global pandemic, and then the mayor turns around and spends $1.2 million in reserves.
Well,
so it was kind of counterproductive to him.
And I think you're talking about paying the maintenance. You're either pay it now or you're going to have to pay it in May.
Yeah, we're saving $40,000.
It's going to come out from. It's going to have to come out on the reserve because that's when the same issue happened. And this is before my time when the $2 million balloon note came up on the building. We have to sell a piece of land. We don't want to go back to that again. So my suggestion to them, if that's coming up, pay it now when we have the funds,
Right.
and avoid any charges. And I think you'll save all the interest, close to $40,000 in interest to it.
Right. So just so I'm aware, next year we're going to receive an additional after October 1st. Next fiscal budget we're receiving an additional $3.3 million that was supposed to be received this year. Correct?
We hope.
Based on okay. And projected, but in our projections for this year are not the $3.3 million. Is that accurate?
No.
So we're gonna have, okay, now we're getting somewhere. At least in my mind. Thank you for following my mind for a second. In revenues this year, from permits this year was $5,075,000, and of that was 4.4 million, right? Minus the 3.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So now we only received 1.1, more or less. I'm tracking.
All right. Yep.
On top of the $3.3 million that we're going to receive next year, which was supposed to come in, what other revenues are we projecting for next year's fiscal budget? Because now we're going to have a surplus.
I can tell you that I had. I'm part of a committee that belongs to the state. Basically, is 35 municipal governments that meet every month or so, and I had a meeting Friday, and the chairperson, who is the mayor for Orlando, basically had got a hold of Tallahassee and said, right after elections, just a state, they're going to have to go back and rebalance the budget again, because the revenues that they were expected are not coming. Now, didn't get me any numbers, but I can tell you that in the past, and this is due to COVID-19, on sales taxes, we only receive in a couple of months 30% out of the 100% that we're supposed to be getting.
Right.
Now, the effect might not be in this year, but at some point in this year, this next fiscal year, we will feel the effect that will carry probably in 2022.
Right.
So that's basically that I'm very shy about using reserves, because at some point we'll have to dig into it.
We're on the same page. And so I'm not actually referring to reserves, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. What I'm talking about is, and I want to make sure my colleagues understand what I'm talking about. We are going to receive $3.3 million in next year's budget that we were supposed to receive this year. On top of the $3.3 million in revenues budgeted, we have here $5 million in revenues.
Now, understand, those are projected $3.3 million.
Right, for
That you-
last year.
That you can either receive it or not, like what happened just now.
Right. Well, we're going to receive it because the build is occurring. So the $3.3 million that was supposed to happen this year was because phase 2 was supposed to begin this year, but it didn't. So now we have phase 2, which is starting. We have the hotel, which is starting. We have the other build in Van Academy, which is starting. So now we have 3 major developments that are popping up in next year that are revenues. Now we know Van Academy is happening because we voted on that yesterday. We know the hotel's happening, and we know phase 2 is happening. So aside from the $3.3 million, how much more revenue are we generating from the Van Academy build and the hotel build?
I don't know that answer. That will be building department on that.
Right. So that's where I say we're going to have a surplus of money. In those revenues, right now we're $221,000 in the black. Next year, once those monies are received, we're going to be $4 million in the black for permit fees. More or less, is that accurate? Something to that
We
effect.
will have to do the books. on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm playing with these numbers, because the last time I spoke about the permit fees and the revenues and the expenses, I actually had hard data where it was, this is what came in and this is what we spent. Now these numbers are completely different than what I had. And the way that I was able to calculate that was all of the building and zoning reports that have come in for the last 3 years. I took a calculator and I started tabulating.
Well, the only thing I can tell you, I welcome for you to bring your books into our finance department. Let us look at it and see what your calculations are, because it's my understanding there's only one set of books in this city, and it's run by the finance department.
Right. Okay. So guys, right now, we are
What's the shortfall so far? Or
468,817. Do you guys want to go line item by line item from the beginning?
460 Emma?
468,817.
Carlos, let me go back. Let's go back to the park. Can we get anything from that park that we haven't used this year because of the COVID? Do we have anything left there?
Yeah, you have
They're not receiving much.
$500,000.
They probably revenues, maybe check like probably $30,000.
Yeah, we're not getting much out of it.
No, I'm not saying the revenue. I know obviously we're not getting any rental or anything like that.
No.
I'm just
No.
saying expensive. Are we spend anything on the, because right now there's no employee there, right?
And that's what is helping balance the budget, those departments that are saving, that have saved, because we, like I mentioned before, we have received only $19,612,000. And we have spent $19,784,000. So we have, right now, at the moment, we have a deficit of 172. We're still receiving, revenues, and we'll be receiving revenue to, November, December. But the way the revenues are behaving, I don't think that we're gonna be receiving that much more.
I guess to answer your question, Commissioner, I think beyond the upkeeps and keeping track of the park, the employees that work in Parks and Rec are part of the public works, so not only working in parks, but they're being short to do other things too, like maintaining the parks and whatever other things that they're mandated to do on a daily basis. And that's something that is controlled by Alan, and maybe he can answer that question better than I can. As far as funding, because what's going on with COVID-19 and the restrictions, I think the revenues are just less than $30,000, if not less. But beyond that, that's the reason why Parks is having that $500,000. We're only spend what, 43% of their budget? If it would have been a regular year, they would have spent a lot more than that.
Right. So how much money do we have left?
In Parks, about 550,
537,127.
close to that.
See, this is the part that gets me. If you guys go to revenues, right? And we'll go back to parks now. In 1920, we budgeted $24,878,056. But we only received $19,784,000. That's where I'm confused. Make sense? So we budgeted $24 million for 1920 for the total budget. But we only received 19 million? You just said,
We had 20, for 18, 19 you said?
for 1920,
Okay, 1920 this year.
we received, we budgeted $24,878,056. But you said we only received 19 million.
Yes.
So we're 5 million shortfall in revenues for 1920, of which 3.3 are permit fees, right? And additionally, you have 1.7 that you're saying is an accumulation of franchise fees, sales, sharing, local option gas tax. I'm going through this.
Communication service tax.
Right. You're saying we have a $1.7 million shortfall. So the real shortfall is the 1.7 million, because the 3.3 is coming back now with the build. Okay, so we have a $1.7 million shortfall. Now we can't take the 3.3 that's coming this year. Okay, that's where I see the disparity. Okay.
See, and the other thing too, I mean, when you're talking about 19 to 20, the pandemic has done a lot
Of course.
that no one understands the effect yet. And that's the reason we were having meetings with all the cities, that as of yet, no one knows what the effect is going to be in sales taxes. Department of Revenue basically is trying to keep the information flowing, but they don't even know. And I can tell you that no one knows the effect of this year until maybe a year from now. We hope that when they balance the budget after the elections in November, like they said, we will get extra money down this way, whether it comes from the state or federal, to supplement the losses that we're having.
Right. Well, the feds are talking about doing something like that.
Yes.
The problem is that the monies don't get filtered to the municipalities. The county governments are eating it.
That is correct.
So we had the feds pump money, and the county government ate it and didn't spread the wealth. And I forget what that number actually was. Was it like 50 million, something like that?
No, I think it was about 500 million.
Right, 500 million, the county ate it up.
And I think $100 million is being distributed to the municipal government, but that hasn't been finalized yet.
No.
They started at 75 million, then they went to 100 million, but they haven't been finalized as to how much each city's gonna get.
Right.
And I think it's gonna be based on population and other things.
So, do you guys want to start, or do you want to go back to Parks and Rec? Because we have 537,000 of unspent funds but what they're saying is they actually used, those unspent funds are gonna go to reserves.
Remember, we haven't closed the books yet,
Right, but we're not gonna spend any money on Parks and Rec.
so.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, $537,000 of unspent funds, we can take those monies that are supposed to go to reserves and we can actually fund, that's what you wanna do, right, Saul?
We can balance it out.
That's what you wanna do, right?
That's exactly what I want to do.
So that makes complete sense. So you wanna put that on a side note and then start from the beginning? Because we already have it solved now. We thought we had it solved the last time,
Right.
but they didn't have numbers, now they have numbers. You wanna start from the beginning? We already know we have it solved.
Oh,
Start all over again through the item by item.
we're gonna need a number, because, I mean, the shortfall right now is,
The shortfall right now is
Four.
468,817, and if we do what Saul was recommending, which is smart, the $537,127 of unspent funds that's supposed to go to reserves,
We can use
we
it to
take
balance.
those monies
And we
to
balance-
balance this year's budget.
so that balances out the budget, so we don't have to go item by item.
But if we do go item by item, I'm sure we can find, I'm sure not only can we find more, but now we can have a true budget to figure out what's what. Remember, the lower the budget is now, so long as we're not talking salaries, and the less fiscal impact, because next year we're gonna have less revenues coming in.
That's right.
Let me solve the issue, maybe I can. I want to go back to the millage, so we understand what the impact is. When you reduce the millage, obviously, the budget that is projected is reduced by that much.
Right.
Now, you've done an awesome job to find $969,000 in reduction. You only have 468 to go. At the bottom line, whether you find or not, whatever amount is missing, we're going to pull it out of reserve. The idea to pull it out of reserve is not a bad idea, because at some point, as you can see, at the end of the year, sometimes the funds get used, sometimes the funds don't get used. It always goes back to the reserve,
Right.
like it happened in so many years. We're hoping that the state is going to help us out a lot. The feds are going to help us out a lot, because we're still got some reimbursement process coming in. So that's going to fill that reserve back, hopefully. And it's not going to affect us as much. It's up to you if you want to go line item by line item.
I think we go with what I said. You know, get that money from the parks. I think that's going to be the better idea. Anyway, it's going to go back to funds. That way, we don't have to go item by item. We can balance the budget right now.
Well, let me tell you like this. That is, okay, it is already solved. We have the solution.
Right.
What the numbers that we didn't have before, for example, when we said, well, how much was spent? I don't have that information. Okay, well, now they have it. Now we can literally go and say, okay, this is you budgeted $700,000 for this. How much was spent? We only spent $300,000. Why? We didn't buy a machine. We can say, okay, it doesn't have anything to do with COVID. It doesn't have anything to do with COVID. Now we know they're over budgeted. I'm not trying to lower the millage. I get what you're saying, and I never said that. What I'm trying to do is lower the budget.
And I'm not trying to push you that way. I'm just saying the effect.
Right.
And I'm trying to give you. I think the solution that you gave is a good solution.
Yep.
I think the solution is a financial solution that we can manage with.
How do you guys feel with that? What I just said right now, getting that money from the.
We're gonna have to do it anyway, because this is a year that is much different than other years.
Anybody exactly.
And whether we like it or not, we're gonna have to tap into it.
Which is what I
And
said
this
from
is
the
what I've
get-go
been
was gonna
talking in the
happen.
past for reserves.
All right.
When we have years like this one, is when you have to do it.
Okay.
Listen,
We're not the
I
only
ha-
city that are doing it. Other
I
cities
ask
are
that
doing
you
it.
indulge me. Give me 15 minutes. Let me find some fat. You know what? You know we know how to do it. If there's no fat to be found, we don't want to hurt employees. We don't want to hurt nothing. What I want to be able to do is find an excess of funds. Are civilian employees getting a raise this year?
They're getting a 2.5 raise. That's
Okay.
not gonna be eliminated.
I think that's gaga. A 2.5 raise, it should be more. So if we find some extra funds, we're able to give our civilian employees more money.
Yeah, but you remember, you gotta think about next year. Next year it's gonna be,
Well, indulge me. I mean, this is not my first budget.
yeah, I know.
So that's why I'm saying,
It's my first one too.
let me
but-
find some extra fat. And if we don't find fat, then there's no harm, no foul. It took half an hour. But we already have this problem solved. We thought we had it solved with the $9.7 million that I thought we found in billing in permit fees. Now they're only telling us there's 200,000 because $3.3 million wasn't received. Well, we didn't have that information. We don't have any information. You guys realize we don't have any information whatsoever. We'll ask, and I don't know. So that's why I asked if you can indulge me, we can just go line item by line item. It won't take more than 20 minutes. And at any time, if you guys say, hey, I've had enough, then you guys outvote me. It is what it is. But I ask, as a professional courtesy, let's just go through it.
I don't know.
Well, straw vote.
I'm
You
okay.
guys wanna go through this?
I'm okay with it. If we can tell you all that if we find some money, it's gonna go back to our employees.
Right.
All right, so
All right, so you vote yes to go through line item by line item. So,
I vote no. I wanna go ahead and stay with what we have.
Ray?
I'll go line by line.
Okay, so 3-1. You guys good with going it?
Is it a vote?
All right.
You want
So,
20 minutes.
okay. Now, this is the part where it's a little scary because when we budget for actual revenues, what's shown here, and then the actual revenues that we received, are they going to be in this? In this?
Are they gonna be within the limits you're saying, or?
Like, for example, if we have projected revenues, right, for 18-19, let's go ad valorem taxes. Budgeted, we have $6.6 million in ad valorem taxes. What did we actually receive in 18-19 for ad valorem taxes, line item 11?
Which one are you talking about? For 18-19 or
Yep.
19-20?
18-19.
Oh, 18-19 is 6.675.
And what do we actually receive?
Well, that's what we actually receive for 18-19.
Okay. And in 19-20, we budgeted $7,035,000. What do we actually receive?
That's what we receive 100%.
That's strange. Okay.
And then 2021 is which next fiscal year,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, but if they don't pay,
actual
somebody doesn't pay.
Avalon, you have the amount?
We always have 5% of those pay.
No, for next year will be 7.5.
7.5 because of the reduction of the,
Those numbers, the Avalon, they're given, the property, bonds
Appraisal.
are given by, the property appraisal's office.
Right.
And, that one just, what goes up or down is based on but the, property value are set, they're given to us, and those are the numbers that we have to go by.
by the way, let me,
And usually the city will put it 100%.
yeah, just to give you,
Yeah, that's what I said.
yeah, just to give you another piece of information, the other things that is coming down the pike is the double whammy. Normally, when you do the Avalon, normally property increases every year. This year is projected their property values are going to decrease, and the Avalon will decrease.
What property values are decreasing? In
Throughout the
Sweetwater? I wish.
Two things are different. This is the actual value that is given by the property appraiser, not the real estate value.
Right.
So by
The
reducing
assessed value.
the assessed value and reducing that, you're going to have the double whammy. So just want to let you know that you might be getting a lot lower next year, but that's being studied right now.
Okay. Let's go to legislative real quick. Did we did we agree to raise our individual budget from 5,000 to 7, or do we leave it at
Yes,
5?
we did, yes, we did.
So it's at 7, right? Do you have something that shows that? Do you have any documentation, like a budget?
No,
that
we haven't made any changes until we finalize everything. But we had it tally and I have all the.
Last year, you guys made a book with the changes. You don't have one? Why not? That would have helped.
Yeah, last year you did like 15 proposed budgets, I remember
Yeah,
that.
you gave us
So-
a booklet every time. Why not this time? It's kind of hard to guesstimate when we don't have actual data. You know what I mean? It's part of my frustration.
You wanna print it or?
No, that if he wants to make the changes to the budget.
Yeah, like how do we, as a legislative body, look at actual numbers when we don't have the actual numbers in front of us?
You didn't get a copy of the tallies from last time?
I'm sorry?
You didn't get a copy that we gave you the changes that were made?
No? Anybody here get a copy?
Last time we passed them around, but I guess.
No. And we'd have had a book just like this.
With different numbers.
Right, with different numbers, the actual numbers you guys have. Have you guys completed the report for the auditor?
The auditor has not completed the report. Should be done by this Friday, is what they've been promised. Should have been completed in June.
Is that the CAFR report?
Yes.
Because in the CAFR, we're gonna be able to actually see real revenue numbers, shortfalls.
Yes.
It sucks that we don't have the CAFR ready now.
Hopefully, when they do it, as soon as they do it Friday, we'll pass it out and you'll have information on that.
So we have another workshop, right? So we'll be having
I think
another,
this is-
we'll
this
be
is
having
it.
another workshop, right?
We have a final hearing on Monday, on the
Yeah, I think this
28th.
is it.
This is it.
Well, the 28th is the date we have to turn it in.
Final.
Correct.
We could have another workshop next week.
It's Monday.
28, today's 20.
The final
Today's
hearing is
22nd.
Monday
Today's
Wait up, I don't even know what day it is.
at 8 p.m.
Okay. So it sucks that we don't have the actual numbers, okay? That sucks. All I can do is laugh. I'm too old to cry.
I think we should go to the original commissioner's just proposal and we get this done already, man. To be honest with you.
So now you don't want to go through line by line.
You can go line by line if you don't have the actual numbers. You won't have it. It's 28. I mean, how are you gonna get that done if you don't have the actual numbers?
Right. You don't think that's by design?
There's nothing that we can do. I mean, I'm tired here.
Listen, man. I think it's by design. It's not a coincidence. It's a joke. So I don't want to. I want to sit here and fight, because if we can get our employees an additional 2.5%, if we can get our, like, for example, all the calculations that we did in the building zoning department, all of a sudden there's only $200,000 in there. Now next week when the CAFR report comes out, they're going to come out with $9 million, and we're going to go, hey, that's not what we're talking about. And they're going to say, no, it was something else.
Or numbers don't lie, I think, so.
All right, so we'll do it your way.
Okay, so do I have to put a motion for that, or we do it our way, or?
No, I mean that's it. I mean,
You call for a vote, and
Okay.
and that's it, bro.
Okay, so I wanna go ahead and call for a vote.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get the money from the parks.
Yeah, straw vote.
we're doing a straw vote to just simply make that. Can you explain the deduction again, or whatever the?
Yeah, basically, it's, you know what I'm talking about, right? Get the money from the parks department, and that will balance it out, I believe so, right?
Yes.
And that will be my vote.
So
Is that your
I'll
motion?
I'll explain what you're trying to say.
Go ahead.
So right now we have a $468,000,
Right.
817 shortfall. We have $537,127 of unspent budgeted funds for Parks and Rec.
Right.
Commissioner Saldia's proposal is to use the $537,127 of unspent funds that's supposed to go into reserves,
right.
but bypass that mechanism and actually fund this year's budget by taking it and funding the 468,000, which would actually be 537,127 minus 468,
68,000.
817, $68,310 that goes into.
Reserve.
Now let me ask you a question: of those $537,000, how much of that is in salaries, rent, whatever stuff that we actually have to pay? None of it.
None of that.
None?
Yeah. Remember, we're in September right now, so salaries are already covered.
I did my study. Case closed.
Hey. He dicho lo que hace,
Esa
cerrado.
bobería, ¿verdad? El tipo está con Judge Judy.
He dicho lo que hace, cerrado.
Hey, listen, I'm looking forward to what that CAF report,
Okay?
and the CAF report comes out when?
It's supposed to give it to us by Friday. And because the commission is not the only one screaming. A lot of the other people who are giving us grants, they want that CAFR report too. So we've been pushing for Friday, so we'll get a hold of Jerry tomorrow and
Okay.
get an exact date, and we'll provide that date.
Can
to
I
the
see
client.
the CAFR report for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20?
I think it's in the website, but we'll get you a copy.
Yeah, if you can, and I'll pick them up. All right, so now, based on that, I think we should leave the millage rate where it's at.
Yep.
If we try and get cute and lower it, we may be shooting ourselves in the foot.
That's right.
That's for sure.
That's right. Definitely for next year.
Because next year, we're gonna have
Mm-hmm.
less, say again?
It's unknown
Yep.
next year.
We don't
Yeah,
know.
next
Next
year-
year's unknown, and we should be able to get much clearer as we go into the next fiscal year, I would say by March, April, and get a clear picture as to where we're at.
Can I recommend something? It's going to be super crazy and unorthodox that nobody up here has ever heard me mention. Can I recommend a 5-year strategic plan for the finance department? I mean, it's crazy, these crazy things, strategic plan. You guys ever heard that? Ever heard me mention strategic plan?
Nope.
You mentioned it?
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. twice or
Every
3 times.
single meeting. We are the only municipality in Miami-Dade County that does not have a strategic plan. If we have a strategic plan run by the finance department and Robert Harada, our local brain, it makes the budgeting process so much easier. It shows what our revenues, our expenditures are going to be, and it makes this process so much easier.
Do you think that's gonna take any? I'm sorry to interrupt. Like more manpower to your department, another kind of equipment, computer programs. I mean,
I can
in order
tell
to
you-
get the 5 years strategic plan.
I can tell you that the federal government runs in a 5-year strategic plan. Most government law than that run 3 to 4. 5 years is what I recommend for everybody. Strategic plan for first you have to have a vision of where we're gonna go, and then the finance comes in and funds it. So it's me grabbing Robert's idea, what the mayor's, and then funding that idea, which is great.
And
I mean,
my requests are
I
from
think that's a
Robert.
good idea, and I think we should do it.
I've mentioned this since I sat in this chair. Another thing that
I will help you push that.
has really bothered me since 1997, when I became an employee of the city of Sweetwater, it is completely unfair that our civilian employees don't have a step plan. It is not only unfair, in my opinion, it shows a lack of professionalism by our organization where we don't have a step plan for our employees. We don't have a reasonable retirement for our employees. We don't have a financial mechanism. So every time we play the budget game, I know the way the budget game used to be played, it was called copy and paste. And that's how this city ran for years until 2014 when we had to do the budget. Yes, I was Jewish. We made there was a huge error made when a certain individual was hired to be the finance director, and 2 days before that, we come to find out the budget has not been prepared. So, we never want to make those mistakes again, but I really hope that, and I'll sit down with you, and I'll show you what my vision is. Believe it or not, I've sat down with the mayor back when we used to talk. We had the same vision for the city.
That was a couple of weeks ago.
The mayor and I did not speak a couple of weeks ago. I can guarantee you that. This was a couple of years ago. We had the same vision for the city. Maybe a building different or two, but if we get into right now, developers don't want to play in Sweetwater because of how difficult it's become. Developers are willing to pay our building permit fees, and we have the most. By the way, we have the most expensive permit fees in the county. But because we're so strategically situated with FIU, that everybody's only been thinking about student housing, we got to get away from student housing and go to workforce housing, to multi-use, to P3, to public-private partnerships, and really truly develop this thing. We have 65 acres of undeveloped land across the street from Dolphin Mall. I have a rendering that I made for the largest convention center in the United States, with 4 hotels and entertainment that rivals Doral City Center. And that's a $2 billion build, coupled with the east-west corridor, which is another $2 billion light rail that goes down the 836 into Sweetwater and lands on that space and goes in the backside of FIU. These are the kind of projections that we need to start talking about. And I would strongly recommend to you, sir, that we start making committees. Because we have business development, but we don't have a business development committee.
No, we don't.
So, and I hate to prolong, us going home. I just want you guys to see the issues that are coming up. So, we balance the budget. When is the next meeting, Carmen?
It's gonna be on Monday at 8 p.m.
Monday at 8 p.m.
The 28th. The agenda has been sent out already.
Okay. What's on that agenda?
Final millage rate and final
I think we're the
budget.
only ones in that agenda. Is it Carmen or
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing else?
So we have. I'm looking at it now. Okay, so we have
One thing we have.
a residue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6 items.
We have 6 items. Wait a minute.
Thursday, we're gonna send the budget with all the corrections to you guys, and you should have the opportunity to sue it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday when we come in. That should be 5 days with all the changes that you.
Okay.
Okay, so ready to adjourn, guys?
Yeah, man.
Okay, do we need attorney?
No,
Right.
no. You can just say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking to the commission. No, it's a workshop. Are we done or?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
So adjourn?
We never took that straw vote, right? On your motion that Commissioner Villanueva.
No, we never. We just talked
Rephrase.
about it.
Well, based on your motion,
Yep.
you know what? You're right. So do you want me to explain it again?
No, that's fine. Go ahead. You can go ahead and explain it again.
Just say the motion so we can vote on it. Right?
So, Commissioner Saldia's motion to take the $537,000 of unspent funds from Parks and Recreation Department that's supposed to go into reserves to now fund our budget shortfall of $468,000. Saul's motion, Commissioner Isidro Reed seconded.
And can we go
Yes,
vote?
just take
Yes.
a vote.
Commissioner Ray,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Villanueva,
Yes.
Vice President Diaz.
Yes. And with that, we adjourn.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
No, hit it harder.
Págata, págata, páfata.
Okay.
Ojalá